Section 4, Qualia and the binding problem. This may be a good point at which to consider the binding problem in connection with Qualia. The binding problem also addresses the issue of why we have unitary experiences, but it does this in relation to what we now know about how the brain works. We now know that different elements of a perception are produced by different and perhaps distantly apart areas of the brain. For example, we see a cat of a certain color walk towards us. We can smell the meaty meal it's recently eaten. We hear it meow. We feel its sleek fur. However, we put or bind together all these disparate sensory inputs, some in different sense modalities, together to form a single unitary object of experience, namely one cat. Is this another example of complex neuroanatomy and neurophysiology resulting in a simple unitary experience, a qualia? Or is there a difference between simple qualia, such as colors, smells, feels, and complex objects, in which we unconsciously link together these simple qualic elements? In other words, are there in fact two levels of perception, one composed of basic atoms of perception and another of complex objects constructed from these, just as the early empiricist associationist philosophers believed? I suspect that this may be the case, though in a more modern version, the simple atomistic nature of qualia may now, for example, be explained by quantum phenomena. Panksepp, for example, makes a clear distinction in this respect between qualia and concepts. As he explains, quote, "When you first saw the color red, you rapidly came to know all that you would ever know directly about this color. Your visual experience was not abstracted from other experiences. Seeing red or yellow or brown is not a concept because you are intelligent enough to manipulate symbols in the form of language. You can use words like red, scarlet, crimson, and ruby to differentiate and label nuanced differences in your experiences. But the raw phenomenal experience of seeing red does not require intelligence. So words like chair represent intelligent concepts, while other words like red represent primary experiences that require no intelligence, except, of course, if you wish to label the experience." End quote. Panksepp goes on to argue that a concept is an abstraction, usually gleaned from a multiplicity of experiences. He uses the example of a chair, quote, "The first time that you ever saw a chair, you might not have known what it was, because you certainly did not yet have a concept that it was a good place to rest. You had to learn that every individual chair is a constituent member of the broader group, leading you to conceptualize what a chair is." end quote. But then Panksepp objects to the position taken by Edmund Rolls, who has suggested that emotional evaluations somehow become concepts too, and that we only experience these emotions when we put these concepts into words. Panksepp comments, only intelligent animals can do this, which is why he believes that only they can experience affects. We suspect this may not make sense evolutionarily, for we know that people experience pain before having the concept of pain, end quote. And so forth for all the primary process emotions that Panksepp claims to have discovered. Several theories have tried to explain the unitary nature of experience by claiming that neural areas in different locations in the brain can be bound together to form the basis for qualia. These can be called resonance or binding theories. For example, the 40 Hz theory postulated that while representations are distributed across many brain areas, each area contains cells firing at 40 Hz. This firing at a common rate in synchrony with those in other cortical areas, so an object's color, motion, shape, etc., are bound together to form a unified representation. In contrast, those who believe in the simple unified nature of qualia can point to pure locationist neural theories, such as Zecchi's theory of microconsciousnesses, in which activity in an individual brain area underlies awareness more or less independently from activity in other areas. Perhaps the ultimate localization theory is that of Penrose and Hamerhoff, who believe that qualia can be generated by quantum processes in the minuscule microtubules of individual neurons. Rose suggests a way in which the bound complex object might be integrated with the simple unstructured quale. He points out that there was a distinct hierarchy of levels in the traditional notion of perception. The early stages of the perceptual process give rise to what he calls more primitive qualia-like aspects of the experience, such as brightness, location, color, and movement. The higher levels would give rise to more complex aspects, such as seeing an armchair or a face, or knowing that it is a face at all, or a particular person's face, or that you hate that particular person. In this view, objects of perception have a layered or hierarchical structure, so that a perceived object could be analyzed at different levels. Firstly, its surface features or qualia, such as color, size, shape, location, and motion. Secondly, its more complex characteristics, such as identity, purposes, animateness, name, and origin. A full representation of that object must include all these aspects of it, and these must be integrated together to form a unified representation. This entity will probably be distributed across many stages of brain processing. In this approach, experience also becomes hierarchic. An experience may be of a patch of red leather, a red leather armchair, or your grandmother's armchair.